Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Last week at this time, we talked with Kirsten Hughes, chair of the Massachusetts Republican Party. This week, equal time, we're delving into the other side of the aisle with our guest, Gus Bickford, the chairman of the Massachusetts Democratic Party, longtime party activist. Gus, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you here. We appreciate you coming over. So, you had your party platform convention last weekend.
Yes.
And I couldn't help but notice that the Speaker of the House, Bob DeLeo, was a no-show. He's more of a what we used to call an Ed King Democrat, a moderate to, I would say moderate Democrat. Certainly he's been resistant to tax hikes and that kind of thing. And there have been a lot of members of the party's left wing have been highly critical of his oversight on Beacon Hill. Was he not welcome there? Or what's the story? Is there a schism there?
No, you know, there was a conflict. I think that he was not alone and the only Democrat not to be there. He had a conflict in his district, and I believe, as we have seen in the past and we see forward, you know, he leads the House in a way that brings people together as Stan Rosenberg leads the Senate. I think we'll see successes out of both places. I think that we need to be proud here in Massachusetts that we've got leaders in both the House and the Senate that work with the governor so that we in Massachusetts can do better. It's that type of leadership that I frankly think we need more on, you know, in the corner office, so that we've got someone who stands up for us. And you'll hear me talk about that.
Well, speaking of the corner office, who's been a better governor, Charlie Baker or Deval Patrick?
Oh, Deval Patrick. I mean,
How so?
Because he had vision. He pushed forward things that make a difference. We currently have a manager who is self-proclaimed an expert in health care. The largest budget busters across the state for cities and towns and for our state is health care, the increasing health care costs. And Charlie Baker has not provided any solution for us to look forward to. So we need to do better, and we can do better in Massachusetts. And you'll hear that from us as we go across, as we move forward, because we need someone who's got vision, who's got a backbone, who's willing to stand up for the people of Massachusetts.
Well, let's talk a little bit about health care in that regard, sure. Because I seem to recall that when Obamacare came in, many voices, I believe including that of then private citizen Charlie Baker, were calling on Governor Patrick to seek a federal waiver so that our well-functioning system, our functioning health care connector and website could continue on unimpeded. He refused. The system was completely remade with, at least for a while, disastrous results. Wasn't that a case of better vision by Baker than Patrick?
It's much easier to be on the outside than on the inside and be able to say this is what we need to do without being the person that provides the solutions. And that's what you saw there. Now that he's in there, he needs to be able to provide us those solutions. As we saw just this last spring, people realize that the Affordable Care Act has made a significant difference. It's saved lives. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's taken years to form and crack and put into the right place. So we just need a leader that's going to stand up for us and continue to push that forward, but recognizing that every single one of our towns and cities are under increased growth in the healthcare expenses. So someone needs to look for a solution, and our governor has been absent.
Well, in your speech to the convention last weekend, you said, quote, "We need a governor who doesn't treat riders of public transportation like second-class citizens," end quote. So aren't you kind of omitting the long legacy of neglect and mismanagement of the T that Baker inherited?
No, not at all, as a matter of fact. I'm pointing out that when it comes to the management of Keolis, when it comes to trying to privatize commuter rail, I live outside 4995, and so when I go to try to park, I have to roll up $4 and put them into a slot. But when I come into Boston, I can pay for a parking meter with an app or with a credit card. Those are what our commuter rail people are asking for, and our governor has been absent of that, and he's forgiven fees and fines to Keolis. That is it's just unacceptable.
Okay, we'll take a quick break on that note, and when we continue, we'll talk more about where the Democratic Party in Massachusetts is and where it's going with the chairman of the party, Gus Bickford. So please stay with us. Welcome back. We're talking with Gus Bickford, the chairman of the Massachusetts Democratic Party. And Gus, the relationship between Governor Baker and President Trump candidate Trump, then President Trump, has certainly been something you've focused on a lot. You guys have clearly signaled that that's going to be a major issue in his re-election next year. What more would you have him do? He's broken with the Trump administration on issues like the travel ban and on the health care reform, and he refused to vote for him, was very public about it.
He needs to stand up. I mean,
what do you mean exactly by that?
It's easy. You know, I speak to teachers, and they have students that ask, what do you do when you have a president that lies? I have read about people who talk about disciplining students, and they say, well, I'm just saying what the president says. You know, we've got, you know, the fourth estate, the media, that is under attack by this president every day, and I find very dangerous. We need a governor. You hear the Democrats across the state and the nation standing up to this president. He's a disaster. We need some Republicans to join in on that. And Charlie Baker needs to do that. He needs to stop writing letters. He needs to stop being disappointed. He needs to go down there and speak up for the people of Massachusetts and just say, this is unacceptable. We need our government to speak for our people. Our businesses are going to... we lost the China summit to Boston because of this president.
Well, you make a good point there, that there's a lot of things about Massachusetts, particularly our economy, that could be at risk from Trump administration policies, cuts in medical research funding, for example, changes in health care, could be devastating to our budget and our economy. Don't you see any, well, I know you probably don't, but I know at least some voters see benefit in having just one lone Republican in high office here with some connections, apparently has a pipeline to Vice President Pence, who can work the game from the inside while our all-Democratic delegation is hammering Trump.
Fair statement, but we've made him a better governor as it is. You know, we forced him last Friday in the middle of the day. He wasn't in favor of the Climate Alliance, and by the end of the day, he was. And I think that we can take some credit in that by pressuring in that way, and we'll continue to. But we in Massachusetts can do better. We had John F. Kennedy from Massachusetts talking about how we're going to go to the moon with materials that haven't been built yet. We could have a governor that would say, you know where the jobs are going to come from? They're going to be coming from new energy sources. If we switch to doing different energy sources instead of going back to fossil fuel, we'll be in a better place, and Charlie Baker could drive us there.
Last very quick thing, Gus. 3 fine men, not well known, have announced their intention to run for governor in the Democratic primary next year. Is that it? Is that the field?
It's a great field for there's been a long history in the state of that not being, you know, we don't know until February or March of next year. I think we're in a great place with these 3, but there could be more.
Okay. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Come again soon.
Of course.
Appreciate it. That's Gus Bickford, chairman of the Mass Democratic Party. That's it for me. I'm going to throw it back over to my colleagues for more WBZ News.